Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Dion Brown. You are watching and or listening to Man versus Brand. Uh, there is an adage that we've all heard, right? I believe it's First Timothy 6:10. It goes a bit like this: For the love and or pursuit of money is the root of all evil. Now, the adage has been bastardized in a way in order to serve different purposes uh, along history's path. Um, People have weaponized it in order to keep individual cultures financially illiterate. It has been used to justify individuals not wanting to show up in the world as their best, most authentic self. And very much like oral history, it has been said enough incorrectly that people believe it to be so. But that's not the only place that this exists in history, right? Most recently, I can remember just hearing everyone say, more money, more problems. But that's not really true. The fact of the matter is that your access to wealth, resource, and opportunity really just scales what's already in you. If you already come with smart financial habits, then you will only scale in your smart financial habits. If you have a predilection to vices, more access to wealth will only create more opportunities to indulge in those vices. And lastly, if you don't have a smart team around you of trustworthy, educated individuals who don't mind you getting second opinions, then you will often find yourself trusting folks who may not have your best interest and best strategy in mind. We can look at athletes, actors, individuals who have come to large sums of money only to lose that money because they, in fact, trusted their cousin, their friend, the accountant from the record label to handle their finances, and then realize how much financial trouble they were in, tax-wise and or expense-wise, at a moment when it was too late. So what does that really mean for the rest of us? Well, as a person of color, I know that I grew up in a household where every other form of literacy except financial literacy was really discussed. And I also understand that that was because the folks who raised me came up in a time where you couldn't trust banks because, and listen, that's a whole nother conversation, but you couldn't trust banks specifically at that time because banks didn't, wouldn't, or unethically housed the funds of people of color, and there wasn't assurances on whether you would get that back, on whether your money would accrue as stated, or if there would be a change in policy. And so what that meant is that a lot of folks were raised by individuals who hid money under mattresses, who didn't trust banks, who knew very little about credit and the usage of credit because they were never afforded credit in the first place. Credit was oftentimes a conversation with a store clerk that really looked more like layaway, where they would come into an agreement and you would pay money in installments, but you would get the items up front. So there was this whole gap in history around financial literacy. To add to that, we also understand that there's a time period in American history where specifically lynchings were happening, and those lynchings were typically happening to teachers, professors, small business owners, people with proximity to whiteness. It's a part of history. It's nothing to be afraid to discuss because it so much informs why financial literacy has been such a struggle, especially in America for people of color, specifically those descended from enslaved people. Because with the lynchings of those individuals also came another gap in the ability for small business owners to teach us about what financial literacy, growth, economic responsibility really look like. And so, what do we do now? We have rhetoric that teaches us that money is problematic. We have generations that have never been able to utilize money in a way that promotes not only their wealth, but generational wealth. And we have systems that have histories of not necessarily being in the benefit of different and diverse culture. And so we question, how much can we learn in our lifetime? How much can we do in our lifetime? And how wealthy can we, in fact, be by the work of our own hands and not by luck? Well, I have LaJuan Hughes on the line with me. He's going to talk to us about wealth, his understanding of wealth, how you can attain it, how entrepreneurs can secure it, what he calls ethical hacking of banks. We're going to talk about the multi-subjects that LaJuan has to offer in the ways that he wants to discuss it, hoping that you guys get as much from this episode as possible. So with that said, I'm going to shut the F up and hand this over to LaJuan. LaJuan, what's going on? How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, my man? Definitely appreciate you having me on. Excited to be here and speaking to the audience.
Absolutely. So at this moment, what do you think is happening in terms of individuals being able to fund their business? Like, do you think we're in a really good space for that? Regardless of if we're discussing self-funding, bank funding, or grants and loans, where are we at in terms of people being able to fund their dreams and their businesses?
I think it's interesting. I think right now a lot of people they're looking at business loans, the typical things, done numbers and net 30s, net 60s, all these different type of strategies, and they work to a certain extent. But what people are starting to see and starting to find out that a lot of these banks they make it really hard for you to get these funding methods, right? The business loans and all these type of things, especially when you're a new business and you're just starting out and you may not have any capital as far as like you've generated so far, and they make it really hard. They make it really hard, even if you have great credit, even if you have all these things in place personally, they still are going to make it extremely hard for you to do that. So to answer your question, Dion, I think right now it's like we're in this middle ground where if you really know how to leverage credit, you can always get funding. But for the people that don't know those things, then they can find it, being really tough.
So I think the most recent and most evident example of this, at least in individuals that I know that fund and or start businesses, serial entrepreneurs, is in the cannabis industry. Um, uh, it- the race to sort of get market share in the cannabis industry also shed light on the fact that very few individuals of color were able to get the proper funding in order to start. Now, there's also a bunch of things. There's a high price to enter that market. It's a lot of fees in order to get the licensing to do it. But
Right.
disproportionately, a lot of folks were being incarcerated for the same thing that they couldn't create legitimate businesses from, right? And that became a wide gap. Now, there's a lot of initiatives to do it, but I think that's, to me, the most recent clear example of an industry where where equity wasn't present and where just going to a traditional bank may have seemed like the best first course of action, but ultimately people ended up doing hard money loans or getting life insurance policies and then pulling out the money from the policy in order to fund the business. They had to find workarounds in order to get the business funded, and VC wasn't typically an option as readily available as some of those other ones. So when you talk about ethically hacking banks, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so we're talking about, and I love getting into this, so you might have to rein me back a little bit because I just can
Nah,
go
get
on and
nerdy.
on.
Get
But
nerdy. It's fine. Get nerdy. Good. Good. Good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, ethically hacking the bank is really you leveraging your personal credit and being able to be in a favorable position in the eyes of these lenders to then have them give you business lines of credit. When I say that, I'm talking about business credit cards. So, I found, and people that I mentor and everything, it's the easiest way. Literally, it's the easiest way to get capital. And I'm a big proponent. You hear me talk about it a lot. 0% APR funds to fund your business. This is, in my opinion, the best and most efficient and effective way to fund any business, especially when you're first starting out. I think you need 0% APR funds to, be able to effectively grow your business and get started. So, for me, like I said, ethically hacking the bank, all that is just leveraging your personal credit, having that score optimized and your credit profile optimized on the personal side first, because then we're going to go leverage that to get business credit cards to fund your business. And again, once that personal side is A1, I promise you, you will be your own bank. You'll never need to go get a business loan, an investor, anything ever again.
All right. So let's talk through a few ideas or thoughts that come up when you say that.
Mhm.
So are we talking about CPNs? 'Cause there's been a lot of conversations around sort of getting lines of credit and leveraging lines of credit. And there's been, I think, a lot of folks kind of online pushing this sort of get a CPN, get a line of credit, or are you actually talking about um, changing your credit profile, building a relationship with um, someone at a bank in which you will then house your uh, business's credit or multi accounts, and
Mhm.
then using what you don't have in capital, uh, instead leveraging your personal credit, getting a business credit card, and then using that credit card to fund your business. Because what you said sounds like it could sort of go either way. So I just want to kind of
Mhm.
clarify which way we're
Yeah.
we're moving toward.
Yeah, it's definitely option two that you said, and that's really what it is. We're leveraging the personal side first. A lot of times, and I'm sure you see this so often, Dion. Like a lot of times, you got all these people they want to go get authorized users, they want to go get all these things, and you got to look at it from the eyes of the lender, the eyes of the bank. I always tell people this, like think about it and sit down for a second. They can clearly see that you ain't got an authorized user. That's apparently evident. It's
Yep.
obvious, right? So you go get an authorized user. Say you have nothing on your credit report, but all these authorized users from the Finger Huts and all these different places that do these type of things. The K Jeweler or the Jewelers Club, whatever it's called. You know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
all these different authorized users, or maybe you bought a trade line or whatever, right? You have all this stuff on your credit profile, but they have nothing to see for you personally that you've done to say, okay, we feel comfortable about giving this person some money. So you go into a bank or you go online, whichever, and you're going to go apply for a business loan, trying to get $50,000 or $80,000 or $100,000, whatever the amount is. And on the personal side, again, because they're going to PG, like they're going to try to personal guarantee with you, right? That's just what they do more
Yep.
times than not. So if you don't have that available, I mean, I always ask people this: would you feel comfortable giving somebody $50,000 or $100,000 if they've coming to you with a new business? It hasn't been proven. You don't know if it's product market fit. They haven't made any money yet, and on the personal side, their credit has just been repaired, or they have a whole bunch of authorized users and nothing else.
Okay. So with that said,
Hmm.
you're you're sort of positing this idea that um that credit, if the APR is low, is more beneficial to you in
Zero.
the long run
Yeah.
than securing a loan.
Oh yeah. Every time.
Okay, cool. So what then? So listen, if you so there's two separate individuals that I see that this works for, right? So this works for someone who maybe does have maybe solid personal credit. Their business is running pretty smoothly. They're looking to scale, but the amount of cash flow that they would need, or availability to cash that they would need, uh, is higher than what the bank is willing to loan them. The On the other side, it's a person who has decided to start a business, that the upfront cost of starting that business is higher than what they can afford from their personal income, and or I would argue that you have to secure a level of your personal income and not put all of that into a business idea, right? Because you
Hmm.
have to live.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right. I
and
definitely don't
so
recommend
yeah,
it.
so you are looking for a way to get this money, and maybe hard money loan isn't your way because it's you're going to end up paying a high percentage. Maybe the loan, you're either not going to get, or the percentage is also going to be high because of an aversion on the bank to risk, so they're not going to want to risk a lot, right? So this
Mhm.
becomes an option. Um, for either person, what's the time frame on this, right? Like, are we talking, is this a 6 month strategy? Is this a 3 month strategy? Is this
Yeah.
you're really just asking for the bank to approve a credit card for you, so therefore it's running at the same rate as any other card approval? Like, what's the time frame that someone's looking for if I'm looking to utilize this ethical bank hack right now?
Yeah, yeah. So it really depends on the person, and because again, I'm a believer of personal guarantee. Me personally, right? A lot of people they try to go the no PG way. In my opinion, you have to personal guarantee first. If you don't have a business established yet, you got it to me like that. That is the fastest way. And so a lot of people, in my opinion, the people that don't want to do that is the people that their credit is not good, which is okay. But at the same point in time, credit is important.
Yep.
It's important. We have to get out, especially in the black community. We have to get out of this mindset of tarnishing our credit, trashing our credit, and we just use it like it's this thing that we don't. We just try to hustle with it or whatever, and that's it. Like we got to get out of that mindset, and we got to realize like that these hedge fund owners, and these multimillionaires and billionaires, they're leveraging their credit. That's what they do. They leverage their credit. They hardly ever use their own money.
Well, so that's why I started the episode the way I did, because I think
Hmm.
that oftentimes folks, and I don't think you're doing this in this case, but I think
Hmm.
across the board, you hear a lot of kind of rhetoric that that makes it seem like people are being neglectful or intentionally being doing harm to their own credit, right?
Hmm.
And the reality is that history says otherwise, right? And
Right,
so
right.
there's this sort of parallel process that needs to happen. One is
Mhm.
that the work needs to be done for education and for literacy and for people to fix their credit.
Yeah, that's
There
number 1.
That's not right,
Yeah.
you also have to have a historical context for it to
Right.
understand and not blame yourself, which then
Mhm.
prohibits you from taking or feeling shame which then prohibits you from taking the right actions, right?
Hmm.
Once you learn your own history and can look at it objectively, then it takes away some of the emotional factors that create mindsets that are focused on scarcity, people delving into too much consumerism, right? Because people will say like, "Oh, my mother just didn't know," but it's like, no, that there's
Hmm.
actually a history around why, specifically Black people or people that are descended from enslaved people didn't trust banks, uh,
Right.
didn't really understand credit, didn't have access to credit, didn't have access to real estate because of redlining or to
Right.
valuable real estate with that would then make money, right? And so when we really delve into our history, it's like we have to do two things at one time. We have to fix the thing that's in front of us, but also remove the shame, the guilt, the fear, the impulse that came with a long-standing history of no one really having the same access that the current billionaires have or that the current millionaires have, because it just didn't exist for us
Right.
in this country in the span of time that we existed in it, right? And so it doesn't make
Right.
excuse, it just gives, I think when
Yeah,
people
that's
get
what it
more
is.
clarity on it, they're like, oh, this
Mhm.
isn't my mother's fault or my grandmother's
Right.
fault, this isn't my aunt's
Right.
fault. This is
Right. They
something
didn't
that
know.
I need to fix because
Right.
it was information that wasn't afforded to anyone that I was connected to. So that's I think what makes conversations like this powerful, because
Right.
it creates information and also gives some level of history to it.
Right. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. It goes so far back. Like when we were having this conversation, it's so far back. And again, like you were saying, a lot of times people they blame, and I hear this all the time when people are coached. They say, "Oh, well, my parents they didn't know, or they didn't educate us on this stuff. They didn't know." You
Exactly.
know what I'm saying? Like, how could they educate you on something that they didn't know themselves?
Exactly.
So, it's no really blame. It's just somebody at some point has to be like, enough is enough, right?
Exactly.
Because the information is there, and obviously, again, you have to get uh channeled in the right direction to find it. Don't get me wrong, for sure, but we have to understand that there's a better way, there's a more efficient way, and we have to start realizing that, like, hey, like we can do this.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. That's the kind of final point I think in terms of the history portion. And then
Hmm.
I'll move past that. But I think it's
Hmm.
also, if banking and financial institutions um, won't take accountability for their part in the lack of financial literacy
Hmm.
for Black and brown people, then individuals have to take accountability, right? So it's like
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
like you have to do the work that someone else won't do. So it's not even
Yeah.
also about saying, well, it's like, well, you, it's not that you have to do it because you haven't done it, therefore you
Mhm.
need to catch up. It's
Right.
it's a matter of accountability. Like in spaces that you won't get it, if you need it, it just has to be done, right? And
Mhm.
so if it's not going to be given to you equitably, then you have to find other methods and resources. And that's, I think, the beautiful thing of our history in this country is that it has all been forged by working around systems that weren't intended for us, right? So
Right.
whether it
Right.
comes down to financial literacy, economy, small business, creativity, music, sports, right? Like dominate sports that you had to be segregated from, right? There's this
Right.
long-standing history of creating space where space wasn't allowed for, and so
Right.
what you're talking about, Luan, I think is so great because it allows people to create space for themselves to circumvent sense of
Mhm.
systems that may not necessarily be for them. So talk to me about this. Um, how did you end up being such an advocate for entrepreneurs, financial literacy, um, understanding credit,
Mhm.
understanding your personal and professional finances? Like, how did you end
Mhm.
up in this space? Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about the story.
Yeah, man, it was a long journey. I tell you that. For me, like I started out, and again, like I tell people all the time, I'm not nobody special. I was uneducated on this stuff, just as most people are starting out. But I just had the opportunity to get introduced to some people that, excuse me, shed light for me on this stuff. So for me, how I started out was it was a couple years ago. I believe it was like 2014, I want to say. And that's kind of like when I got introduced kind of like to this entrepreneurial lifestyle and everything. I was an outside sales manager for a travel agency, and I live in Las Vegas. So I was running a Las Vegas market, and the agency was based in Houston. So I had the opportunity to start meeting a lot of different business owners and stuff like that. And then I'm a talker. I like to talk to people. I always tell people, stop hating on people. Just pick their brain, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
tell people all the time, like, let's get out of this hating mindset and being jealous of people. No, like, let's go. I'm the type of person, hey, I'm gonna go talk to you, regardless if you're in my industry or not. I'm gonna go talk to you and say, hey man, like, how did you do that? How did you get where you're at today? Or what did you do? What methods did you use? Whatever, right? So me being that type of person, that's how I kind of started to make segue. And then I started to get an understanding of how I started with personal credit and how credit cards work, because I was always like a cash guy coming up. I was always cash guy. Like I thought cash was king, and all this type of stuff that we always think. But then I started to realize that credit was powerful if you use it the right way, right? And then so really when it kind of went to the next level was I got a friend of mine. He lives in New York. He actually works for Wall Street, and he works for Goldman Sachs. And I was talking to him. He was in town, and we were sitting one night and we were talking, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like, because I was talking about businesses and stuff like that, and he was like, why don't you just leverage your credit?" And he said it like so casually, like it's just something that they do. And I was like, what do you mean? And then he was just like, well, yeah, like people always are trying to, go get business loans or whatever, which is cool. But he was like, man, just a lot of people don't realize most people for their business, they only need like 10,000, 20,000, $30,000. He was like, you can get that on a business credit card with one card, 0% interest. And then it was kind of like, whoa, like, you know what I'm saying? So he gave me that nugget, and then it's like, then I just dove supremely deep into it,
got it.
right? And then I came to find out, like, man, like this is like really something. Like people really do this. You know what I'm saying? People really like this is how they do it. One of the methods at least. And then so then I got really, really deep into it. So I really start figuring out like all the backdoor algorithms. Okay, what's the perfect score on the personal side to get business credit cards? How much can you get? How can you abstract that capital from the credit card if you're in, say, real estate? 'Cause I got a lot of people I coach in real estate that need that money for flipping properties or wholesaling, whatever. So I really just start diving in. And then so after years of all that research and trial and error, that's how I came to where I'm at today, where now I can just literally pinpoint and I can go guide somebody from A to Z on how to get the funds that they need at 0% interest.
So first, I think that that's a dope story. Especially right, like it's you said 2014, so
Hmm.
you're about 8 years into this, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. They say mastery takes what, like 10, so like
Yeah.
something like that. So you're there, right? So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
happy for that. You bring up something interesting though, right? Like REI, real estate investment. So I ran um, a real estate firm in New York. Um, did a couple 100 million a year.
Hmm.
Um, and people would ask me all the time, like, how do I get into real estate investment? Right.
Hmm.
And my answer was always, and I just want to hear your take on this. My answer was always, what's your contacts look like? Right? Like what's your
Yeah.
contacts look like first? Like forget money, forget taking a course,
Hmm. Right.
Forget really understanding business. Like, do you know a contractor? Do you know a plumber? And do you trust them enough to be fair in your pricing, right? Because
Hmm.
your the flipping of a home is in the margins, and your team will either eat your margins or provide you with margin. There's nothing else.
Right.
It's not going to be the price of the home versus the sale of the home. It's going to be
Right.
everything that happens in between.
Right. Right.
So when you're talking about working with like real estate agents or people who want to do real estate investment, specifically in that sector, do you find that you're a part of a larger team, like where it's like you, maybe a credit repair person, maybe they also have like um, a mortgage person, they also may have someone that's working on title. Like, are you a
Hmm.
part of a bigger team, or do you find that they're usually coming to you as an individual looking for this one particular segment of help, hoping that
Hmm.
it will then lead them to all the other parts that they'll need to get it done.
It's for me at least. It's usually just the individual.
Okay.
And if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking like do the people that I coach and stuff like that do they have these teams in place? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, in essence,
Okay.
right? Because all of those parts, right? Like you're
Hmm.
one part of
Right.
another part, right? That
Exactly.
when those
Exactly.
parts are working in tandem, that you have
Exactly.
access
Exactly.
to understanding the money part, understanding the investment part, understanding
Right.
the mortgage part, right?
Right.
Every
Right.
piece then starts to inform the next step of the process. So do you find when
Right.
people come to you that they're coming to you singularly, or do you find
Yeah.
you're a part of a team, which where I think I'm getting with this is speaks to your earlier point about people being afraid to ask everyone
Right.
about what to do, right? So are
Right.
people coming to you like, hey, I need help, and then you're
Hmm.
like leading them in the help and possibly trying to get them the right connections, or people coming
Right.
to you like, listen, I'm trying to put together a team, I'm trying to get
Hmm.
informed people around me, how
Right.
like, and I want to work with you.
Right. Yeah, so it's always singular, at least from what I've had so far.
Yep.
It's always singular, and for me, I'm in a position to give them those tools that they need. You
Yep.
know, although I don't claim to be a real estate guy, even though I probably got to talk to you, man. Because that's my next avenue is real estate for sure. After I handle everything I need to handle on this side, I'm definitely
Yeah.
hopping into real estate. But um yeah, no. So that's not really my avenue per se. But at the same point in time, when it does come to, I'm the capital guy. That's what they call me. I'm the capital guy. So
Yeah.
you know, they come to me because they need the capital.
Yeah.
They want to learn how to get the capital or how to all those type of things. So once I do that, kind of my job is done. But at the same point in time, I go a step further because a lot of people they need help with just business strategies in general because a lot of times when they get the capital they need to know how to use it properly and how to effectively maneuver and how to really balance 0% APR and all these type of stuff like that, right? So it's kind of like an ongoing thing, and I'm always coaching and mentoring people on the next steps even after they get the capital.
Yeah.
And even with me, my main business, my main company is a marketing company. So a lot of times people need help with their online presence and marketing, paid advertising, all that type of stuff. So I'm always, helping with that too.
Yeah, man, because what I hear in what you're describing in how you describe how you work is
Mhm.
the makings of, or possibly already created, a really strong referral program, right?
Yeah,
Where you're working with attorneys and real estate agents and mortgage
yeah,
folks
yeah,
um, and folks that are working in distressed homes, right?
mhm, mhm.
Or and really having a network where everyone's referring business to everyone else, right? So you're
Yeah,
cons-
no, that's what I want it to be.
yeah,
Eventually,
right, like
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking, like how are people
Hmm.
coming to you, right? Because
Hmm.
in the space where people don't have that, it becomes really
Hmm.
powerful when you can create that for them, right?
Right,
Because
right,
you're
right.
generating someone else's business who will then
Hmm.
generate your business, and you're creating this community that sort of feeds itself, right?
Yeah.
And I know that it can be a really powerful thing.
Right. Yeah, I think when I first kind of got started with this, again, it was on accident.
Yeah,
I was I was really I started off just being a consumer of credit cards, And
Yep.
so I was like, man, I was always, helping people with credit cards and what credit cards to get and travel hacking. That's kind of how I started. And
Yep.
then, I was like, well, I'm just make a YouTube channel, right? So, I made a YouTube channel and, I start putting videos out on there, a couple of them getting a couple thousand views. So I'm like, okay, maybe I do know what I'm talking about. I
Yeah.
don't know, right? So,
Yeah. That works.
and then, yeah, right. So, and then from there, and then, people from my YouTube channel, they start reaching out to me like, man, like, hey, can you, like, I'm interested in business credit because I knew about it. I definitely know how to do it. I've done it for myself, but I never had the mindset like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go teach people how to do this. It was just like it kind of came to me. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
somebody reached out to me from my YouTube channel that's a subscriber, and they were like, "Hey, like I'm trying to start a business." They were, going into real estate, and they were like, "Hey, I know you're always talking about business credit cards and 0% APR. Like, how do I do that? How can you help me apply this method inside my business?" So I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then so that's kind of how it started with that particular conversation, and then going on from there. And it's funny because it seems like I'm always attracting real estate people. I don't do that on purpose, but it's just I don't know. Like I told my one of my guys, I was like, man, I guess I need to just start targeting real estate people because like that's who I attract for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I'll tell you this. Uh, Inherently,
Hmm.
if you got, and this is just knowing real estate people, right?
Right.
And guys, I'm sorry, I know I'm deviating for a second for
Nah,
giving
go
you
ahead. Go
a
ahead.
little
Go ahead.
talking
Go
about,
ahead.
right? If you got
Yeah.
an attorney that focuses on LLC formations,
Hmm.
a credit repair person, and
Hmm.
yourself, you could walk into almost any brokerage and pitch as just we want to bring value. We want to sit one of your agents down or come into one of your team meetings,
Hmm.
your weekly, monthly team meetings, the three of us, and talk about how they can form businesses, how they can then get money from that business, and how if they have if their credit is not in the right place, they can get their credit repaired, right? And we
Hmm.
can create this opportunity for them ultimately to grow their businesses. But we also know that a lot of real estate agents typically don't own their own homes, right? And so this not
Yeah.
only creates an opportunity for you to transact real estate and to flip real estate, but also to
Hmm.
put you in a really great place to create momentum in order for you to get your first home. So you find those two other people, man, you can almost walk into any brokerage, I swear, and
And it's
present
funny, I
real
have
estate.
those people.
There you go. That's all you need.
Yeah,
You bring
yeah, yeah,
those
yeah,
two
yeah.
other
That
people
that's
in with
funny.
you, and you'll almost be able to get a meeting with a large group of real estate agents because everyone's looking for an attorney. Credit repair not only works for them, but it also works. Everyone's looking for an attorney.
Hmm.
uh, Credit repair people not only work for them, but it also works for their renters and buyers, right?
Right, right,
So
right.
not only can they use it, but that's a resource for their own clients. And then there's you,
Yeah.
right? And so you're
Mhm.
bringing value to them, you're bringing value to their clients, and ultimately bringing value to the brokerage. And so um, throw those people in the mix, man, and you walk into any Douglas Elliman, Caldwell
Mhm.
Banker, Keller
Mhm.
Williams, whatever, with a solid pitch, and people will hear you out.
Yeah,
Um,
man. I just they keep diving me into this real estate stuff, man. It's just calling my
go
name. I
for it.
don't
When
know.
the universe
It's
tells you something, listen. When the universe says, and right here's what they say, right?
yeah,
Entrepreneurship is about finding solutions to problems, right?
right,
So if the problem is real estate agents cannot find access to resources, then your opportunity as an entrepreneur is to meet that need, right? So
right.
it's just
Yeah.
like, man, I can't find a cab ever. Okay, now Uber's here, right?
Mhm.
Like I can't find access to products in an expedient amount of time. Amazon is here, right? So the idea is that I'm a real estate agent and I need access to resources in order to start my business. Belong
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
right? And
And that's a
that's the way that
key.
it
That's
works.
like that is literally what you said, Dion. Like so many people miss that when they're trying to start a business. Like I tell people all the time, like you have to be in a position that you have something that people need, right? You gotta have that. Like you gotta have product market fit. And so a lot of times people just, oh, I got this great idea of what I think. was gonna work. But no, how about you go survey your market, go survey your audience, your niche, and figure out, okay, what is this thing that they need? And if that thing is that they something that they need, what are they willing to pay for it? And now you got a business.
Absolutely. So when you're doing a consultation,
Hmm.
create for me a missing person's report of who that client looks like. Like, who is that person that if they're listening right now, what are they thinking about? Where's their credit at right now?
Hmm.
Where are they at in their process? So if there's a listener or a viewer that's like, am I a good fit to talk to LaJuan about starting this? What's that person looking like? What are they thinking about?
Yeah. So that's a great question too, by the way. And to answer it, that person looks like this. You're sitting in a position where maybe you have like a 650 credit score, 640, 680, maybe it's even above 700, right? And you are interested in starting a business for the first time. You're trying to start a business, right? Or you have a business and you need to scale, right? Any of these two scenarios, this is who I'm talking to, right? And you have either tried to get business loans, or you haven't tried anything at all, and you need capital, right? You don't want to use your personal funds, or you don't want to pull from your personal funds, and maybe you've tried investors. Maybe you've tried hard money loans, maybe you've tried whatever it is, right? And you need capital. This is who I'm talking to. This is who I help. This is who I strive for, and this is who I show up for each and every day. Is those people that they got a great idea, because there's so many people that have great ideas. You can look it up as a statistic that the number one reason businesses fail is because lack of funding.
Yeah.
And so, it's a major hole. It's a hole that I didn't even realize it was until I got into this industry and I realized how much people need credit. I mean, need capital, right? So it's a major thing. And for the person that's listening, or anybody that's watching, if you are in that position where you have 650, 640, 700, whatever the credit score is right there, and you're looking to start a business, you need capital. I'm here for you.
All right. So listen, I'm going to add to that statistic that the one
Hmm.
said. So businesses fail for lack of funding. Entrepreneurs fail for lack of follow up. Right. So um,
There you go.
your job is to hear this, recognize that you need it in your life, and then take action and follow up with that action. If you just listen to it and you do nothing, then nothing's going to come from it. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you're not moving forward with that idea, nothing can really grow from your lack of investment in what you're doing. So you don't
You
do nothing,
preaching, man.
nothing happens.
Slow down. You preaching,
So,
man.
no, seriously. So it's important, right? It's important that folks recognize that listening isn't enough, right? It's
Hmm.
good. Listen, you in marketing, there's this idea about top of mind, right? So we need to see something multiple times in order to for us to remember it in the time that we need it. And
Seven
so
times to be
yeah,
exact.
I get it, guys. Like, you might need to hear this message a
Mhm.
few times in order for it to land, and you go, "Man, I need it." Maybe you don't need it today. Maybe you'll
Mhm.
need it in 2 years. But realize that your idea is waiting for you to take action. It can't take action for you, right? So you match funding with initiative and drive, and it becomes the great equalizer in your ability to have your business succeed. And I just wanted to put that out there. So folks, remember,
Yeah,
it's not just about the money, it's also about you got to follow up, right? You have to hear stuff
yeah.
like this and take action. And when you do, some beautiful things can happen.
And if we had time, I wanted to even add a quick point to
Yeah,
that as
no, no,
well.
we got about 15 more minutes. We're good.
Okay. Yeah. So, to that point, man, like in this time that we're living in right now, oh my God, like it is the perfect time for anybody that's looking to start a business. Like there's so many avenues, there's so many ways that you can get in front of your ideal customer, your ideal client avatar. It's just the possibilities are endless. You just have to put in the work. Like that's really what it comes down to in this present day that we live in. anybody, any random person can get to $10,000 a month. You know what I'm saying? It's right there in front of you to do it. You just have to put in the work. You got to be, you got to do your due diligence, and you have to really just be hungry and consistent. And like Dion was saying, just following up. You got to be present for yourself and for your vision and for your dream.
Yeah, man. Something as simple as um we had two opportunities before this time to have this same conversation, right?
Hmm.
But we
Hmm.
just kept following up, like, hey, we're
Hmm.
gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen, right?
Yeah.
Now, the audience at whole benefits from just purely following up, right? And that
Right.
isn't just about this conversation. It's about you never know where value is going to be until you pursue the avenues that lead to value, right? If someone tells you
Right.
no, that no may be a no for right now, right? But if
Hmm.
you internalize that no and you're thinking it's rejection and you don't like rejection, then you'll never get to a certain the so, and Lauren, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but there are statistics around um, the amount of no's that it takes to lead to a yes, and every industry has different amount of no's that it takes to lead to a yes.
Hmm.
A lot of
Hmm.
cold calling, a lot of lead generation is focused on this, but
Hmm.
also I think it's a conversation that's worthy for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You may have heard no to 6 forms of funding. This way might be your yes. You may
Yeah.
need 6 no's to get to a yes. Statistically, you may need 6 no's to get to a yes. So if you
Yeah.
internalize every no as being rejection, then you're not going to hit the number of no's that it'll actually take for you to get to your yes. Not everyone's going to tell you yes. Not every
Yeah.
seller in real estate is going to say yes. Not
Right.
every person that wants to get marketing services are going to say yes. But you
Hmm.
have to statistically hit a certain amount of no's until a yes is available for 2 reasons. And you could speak on this, man, because one, you'll
Yeah.
get better at your pitch. Like your pitch
Yeah.
becomes better. You're going to move through so many no's. You're going to be able to
Yeah.
objection handle. You're going to be able
Yeah.
to work through people. You'll get better about knowing your product.
Hmm.
If everyone just told you yes,
Hmm.
then all you're going to do is just do the work of it. You'll never really learn how
Hmm.
to sell it to a diverse population of people. So you get better at your pitch. And then the second thing is that you find holes in your own product. So the person will tell you no because your credit's bad. Great. Now I know I need to fix my credit. That may be something
Hmm.
that you weren't even aware of. So your
Right.
no's may actually be informing you of opportunity zones in your life or in your business. So speaking on your point, like guys, empower your no's to let your no's get to your yeses.
Oh my God. I cannot. I cannot. I don't. We don't even have enough time for me to say how important what you just said is. Like a lot of people when they're starting businesses, and I tell people this all the time. I don't care what niche you're in. I don't care what industry you're in. Your number one thing in your business is you selling. Period.
Yep.
Like could be, and I tell people like if you're not selling, you have a hobby. If you're not making any money, you have a hobby. You don't have a business. It's really that simple. So you have to understand that you have to be good at selling to be good at business. That's just they're hand in hand, right? And I know for me, and he spoke to being told no, right? I think for me, this is really kind of what shaped my kind of entrepreneurial journey because I got a lot of experience with cold calling and stuff like that. And one of the jobs I had a while back was I was selling vacation packages. And this is when I realized that I'm like, man, I might be good at this selling stuff, right?
Yep.
Because the fact that I can, and again, I got told so many no so many times that literally somebody could tell me no, it's like water off my back. Now, some people it kills them when somebody tells them no. Like they shut down, they cry, they go in the corner, they can't take it, they done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you do have to get to a point where no's don't affect you. Like hey, it's
Yep.
just water off your back. And trust me when I tell you, cold calling is the number one way to do that.
Dude. Dude.
It's the number one way. And what I found out was again, like you said, holes in your pitch and all these type of things, knows perfect those type of things, right? And so, like I said, you get told no so many times. And then when you do get a yes, okay, now I analyze that yes. Why did they say yes? What did I say that made them say yes? What did that particular person like to hear from me that made them want to say yes? Like, you go do a deep dive and figure out what that reason was that they say yes. And once you figure that out, you try to replicate that over and over. And then a lot of those no's start turning into yeses. And then it's a numbers game at that point. And that's how you
Yep.
scale business.
Yep, because it doesn't make sense to go, hey, LaJuan, I need to make $20,000 to get $15,000 worth of t-shirts made, and then you sit there, you create a website, and you just hope that they're going to sell because you
Uh
need the t-shirts, right? Like that.
People do that.
But
People do that.
so much of starter entrepreneurship looks like that, right? It's like I have a really
Hmm.
great idea. The world
Hmm.
needs this idea, but the world, in fact, doesn't know it, and you
Or they
have to
don't
be
need it.
the greatest advocate for your stuff. You got to tell
Yeah.
everybody, and if it's not for you, it's not for you right now, but you'll need it later, right? And you just keep
Yeah.
pushing through until you hit the point that you hit a point where you almost know the yes before the yes is about to happen, like because you're
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
you're
And
you're
you have to
you're, you're my
adapt.
client, you're my customer, I know what you need,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to deliver that to
Yeah,
you.
you gotta find that.
Yep.
Like, people don't find that right. You're not gonna find that right at the beginning. I tell people all the time when you're first starting, you're gonna go through uh, rounds and rounds of testing.
Yep.
Like, nobody it's rare that you hit it on the first go. That's supremely rare. If you do, congratulations, I applaud you. But it takes a tremendous amount of testing and testing, and you have to dial stuff in, figure out what product market fit. It takes a while, but I guarantee anybody that's watching, when you do figure it out, it is worthwhile because you're gonna be super dialed in with what you have, and you're gonna know your target audience, and you'll be able to do numbers.
So let's go back to this conversation about business credit, because a
Mhm,
thought just occurred to me while we were talking,
mhm,
and I was like, oh, this actually might be really helpful for someone. So let's say I get let's use a clean number, $10,000, right?
mhm.
How much of that am I using versus how much am I holding in reserve? Like, is there an optimal percentage of credit use that I need to be aware of as I'm maneuvering through this card? Like, so am I looking at like a 60-40? Am I
Mhm.
looking at like a
Mhm.
70-30, where I'm maybe
Mhm.
using 70, reserving 30? Is using 100% still okay, and that has no
Mhm.
effect on what my future
Yeah.
outlook looks like? Like,
Yeah.
is there some optimal kind of numbers for
Yes.
usage versus not usage in any given time period?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was a great question. It is, and it really, the answer to that question, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? So, say for instance, we'll speak hypothetically here. That say the person needs $10,000, right? That's all
Yep,
they needed. Then okay, you got your 10K 0% APR for 15 months or whatever the intro offer is. You're good to go. You can use that money if you don't need anything else. Now, if you're in a situation where you need, maybe 20 or you need 30 or 40 and you didn't get that full amount on one card and you got to get back on the horse,
yep,
then that's where we need to, be optimal. Usually I tell people not to use it at all until we go get all the capital that we need, right?
got it.
Or if you're in a situation where you got to use some of it, then we're applying personal credit tactics into business credit. So we're gonna keep our utilization under 20%. It's the same stuff. It's the same
Got
stuff.
it.
It just
Got it.
depends on what the person needs, and it's a case by case basis. So, like I said, it just depends on what that particular person needs. If they got all the capital they need, okay, go ahead. You're good to go. Use it. All you have to do is just pay the monthly minimum payment. You're not going to incur any interest on those funds. You can go use those funds to grow your business, do what you need to do, and then you pay that back. You need to pay that back in full before that 0% APR period is up. Because if you don't, then you're going to be incurring interest on that money. And we're no interest gang over here. I preach that. Everybody knows in my membership group, I am no interest gang. We are not paying these credit card companies any interest. We're okay with them making money off of us for merchant fees. That's totally fine.
Yeah,
They're okay with that too. You know what I'm saying? So but they're not going to get any interest money out of us. We're all about leveraging our credit to not only grow our businesses, but travel hacking and credit card point. That's what we teach with my crew.
All right, so you have Leonardo DiCaprio as Jordan Belfort in the movie
Yes.
Wolf of Wall Street as
Yes.
a pony behind you. So talk
Yes.
to me about it. What's significant about Jordan Belfort or Leonardo DiCaprio or
Mm.
Wolf of Wall Street? It could be a combination of all three.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Those individuals. Why
right, right.
why does that resonate with you?
Yeah, so and don't get me wrong, Leonardo DiCaprio is great. He did a great job in the movie, but it's really not necessarily about him per se. Obviously,
Yep.
it's about Jordan Belfort.
Yep.
I'm a high ticket sales guy. In my marketing company, it's marketing and high ticket sales. So that's what we do with that particular thing. So like I'm huge in the high ticket sales. Obviously, as people know, Jordan Belfort, he's like one of the sales gurus in that
Yep.
industry, right? He has a lot of strategies that people are going crazy with, even still to this day, right? Sales scripts and all these type of things. Sell me this pen, like he's got so much stuff, right? So, one, that's one of my favorite movies of all time is Wolf of Wall Street. And sometimes I think it rubs people the wrong way. Sometimes I think just because of what happened in the movie. But I tell people, with Jordan Belfort, the actual real person, I tell people, I'm like, did he do wrong stuff? Absolutely. I'm not sidetracking that. But his actual principles on sales are actually phenomenal. They're like, in my opinion, second to none. I think he's at the top of the list as far as sales goes. So, I take those strategies that he uses because he's a brilliant sales guy, like
Yep.
brilliant. So, I look at him more so for his strategies and how he's a great sales guy and the tactics that he uses inside of his selling mechanisms.
Yeah, because I can see how people might um misunderstand the intent around it.
Hmm.
Mostly maybe because in general, mostly you want the person that's talking to you about finance to be so straight and narrow, right? That
Yeah.
like there's no deviation, right? Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
person has to be the most trustworthy person
Hmm.
in the world, right? And
Hmm.
so in a way, it's like, well, how can your idol be a person who perpetuated distrust and you be the most trusted person in my life? But I think that there's also space to say, in markets where things aren't available to you, you need someone who can think around traditional methods, right? And
Hmm.
so, in a way, it's like if I only could think about the traditional methods, you and I wouldn't be talking because I would be giving you the same answers that everyone else is giving you, right? So, in a way,
Yeah.
I sort of
Yeah.
need to think around institutions, around ways of doing it, and this
Hmm.
is a person who also thought around ways of doing it in order to get it done, right?
Yeah,
So
and you
I
got
get
to be against the grain. Like, I'm
exactly,
sorry,
exactly,
like you got to like anybody that thinks being traditional is gonna cut it edge is not. Like you gotta have some type of edge to you. Not saying it has to be any illegal edge. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying you have to have some an edge. You have to have something that makes you stand out. Above the crowd, above your competition. It has to be something, right?
yeah,
So.
yeah. All right, so talk to me about um you know what? Actually, this is great, right? So talk to me about um how you feel about like hard money loans, like there's a whole thing around kind of industries being built around sort of predatory loan providing. They're making their
Mhm.
they're making their way into like the Instagrams of the world, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
TikTok of the world, and
Mhm.
and they're sort of selling people on this idea that they just get a lot of money quickly, but don't really disclose kind of what the fees are, and the fees
Mhm.
aren't just necessarily interest. There are also other additional fees. So, what your feeling is about this, like them sort of finding their way into
Mhm.
the market, but also to
Mhm.
new entrepreneurs who are trying to figure out how they're going to get funding.
Yeah, I hate it. personally. I'm just not when it comes to business, I'm just not a loan guy. Like I
Yeah,
never would be. And I thought just like anybody else did years ago, I thought, oh, business loans. I tried to get one when I started my nightlife company, and I think that's when I first started to realize, like, man, like this is tough, you know. And luckily for me, like I had the things that they were asking for, but I'm sure you might know, Dion, like when you're going to get business loans, and people listen, I'm probably they know too, it's hard. They're
yeah,
asking for all type of stuff. I had to have a lease agreement for the building, and where the address for the business was, and they're going through everything. They wanted a firstborn son. They wanted a, I mean, they want everything, right?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
to just to give you
And that's even when
$20,000.
that's even if you have a good relationship with your banker. That's even if you know the
Yeah,
person who you need to talk to. Like, if you're coming in
right,
cold, it's probably going to be that much more harder, because the
right.
person
Oh, it
who
is.
yeah, the person who you actually have a relationship is telling you item by item, you're gonna need this, you're gonna need that,
Hmm.
you're gonna need this, you're gonna need that. The
Right,
person that is coming in and you're coming in cold is just gonna give you a blanket yes or no, and kind of send you along your way, because
right,
they just
right,
want the optimal person. They just want to convert their numbers.
right.
They're trying to get to their yes, and you're one of their no's, right? And so they're doing the same
Exactly.
process.
And I think, and I'm gonna kind of loop this all back to around to answer your question, but I do have to tell it because it's really pertinent to what we're talking about. So I have a guy that I'm coaching right now, right? And this is really everything that we were talking about kind of summed up. So I have a guy, and he he's like he feels like the banks are against him, right? Because he's black African American, right? He's like,
Yeah,
man, these banks, they not for us. You know what I'm saying? Like they, I don't trust them, but and I know you've heard that before, right?
yeah,
So I'm like, okay. So he was having because he had to understand that I'm not talking about business loans and all that type of stuff, right? I'm talking about something that he had never heard of. For most people, they might know it, but they don't really realize they can utilize it to the scale that we do it.
yep.
So, it was a process initially to get him to understand. But what I had to explain to him was, and for anybody that's watching, it's an algorithm. It's all it is. And I tell people this is and not to say what we go through is not true. It is, but this method that I found it's not a color thing, right? It's an algorithm, and that's what I figured out. Like, okay, if you can know exactly what they want to see, they're gonna give you the money every time.
So
You know what I'm
basically,
saying?
you're saying that it's taking the gatekeeper part out of the bank
Yep.
person determining whether you're a good fit based on how
Hmm.
they may feel about
Yeah.
rates or whatever. And now
Yeah.
it's just you and the algorithm. It's just numbers
Yeah.
and
Numbers.
and
That's it.
and it doing probabilities based on the numbers that's being provided.
Probability.
And
That's
that's
how bank algorithm work. And one key nugget I want to leave too as well. So a lot of people don't realize, and this is really huge. So obviously there's so many credit scores. And we'll talk about FICO primarily, but then you got your Vantage scores that Credit Karma and all these type of entities use, right? So what people have to understand is, and I'll pick on Chase for a second here, and just to show people how deep that this is, right?
yep,
So you might have a FICO score, right? So inside that FICO score, most lenders currently use a scoring model FICO 8, right? So although there's a FICO 9 out and the FICO 10, Wells Fargo uses FICO 9 right now, but all the lenders use FICO 8. So inside FICO 8, there is 10 different scores inside that one scoring model, right?
yep,
So think about it. Say you're gonna go apply for a card with Chase, right? So say that you have enough knowledge to know that okay, they're gonna pull my FICO 8 score, right?
yep.
So, but let's go a little bit deeper. Okay, Dion, I'm not sure if you're on the East Coast. You're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in New
Or you're
York.
on the West Coast. Okay, New York. So you're in New York. Chase is gonna pull a different bureau for you than they will for me here in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's a region thing. People got to understand it's so deep. So now for you, Dion, maybe they're gonna pull TransUnion for you up in New York.
Yeah,
Say your TransUnion score, maybe it's like a 720, or maybe it's like let's be a little bit more like so I can prove the point. Maybe
yeah,
your credit score is like a 690 in TransUnion, but say on Equifax and Experian it's a 780, right? Because
yeah,
this is real stuff we're talking about. This people have these situations.
yep,
So but say for me, they're gonna pull Experian here in Nevada. So my Experian score is a 790. in Nevada, or for Experian, they're gonna pull that in Nevada, and that's what I have for Experian, right? So
Yeah.
for me, they're gonna approve me for say $30,000 on this business credit card I'm trying to get. Whereas for you, even though you might have that same score for Experian, they're gonna pull a TransUnion for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see how crazy this stuff is, and see this is
Yeah.
how you gotta know all that stuff, because then once you know it, now you can manipulate the banks however you want. And so when you do that, and then you going back to the FICO scores, right? How it's so crazy is, like I said, they have all these different FICO scores, and then once you get approved for a Chase card, and we're going to use Chase for this example, they
Yep.
have internal algorithms to
Yep.
approve you for another card. So say for instance, and this is real facts for me, I had a FICO score at the time of a 702, right?
Okay.
My real FICO 8 score. But Chase internally, because of my optimization of my credit profile and how I operate, their internal score for me was an 830.
Yeah.
Like that's 100 point, almost 120 point difference,
Difference. Yeah.
right? So even though my score is technically a 702, internally they grade me as an 830, and so they're giving me whatever I want.
Yeah.
So to sum it up, like it's really it's an algorithm, and we're taking, like you said, the gatekeepers. We're taking out, like I tell people all the time in videos on YouTube. Long gone are the days where we need to go into the bank with these big folders, and we got to show them all these documents, and we got to go get our business address and LLC. My first business credit card I ever got, I had no business, I hadn't made any money, nothing. They gave me $20,000, 0% APR for 20 months.
So, um, so let's actually start doing that part of the process.
Mhm.
What's your YouTube channel?
My YouTube channel is my name, LaJuan Hughes.
All right, LaJuan Hughes.
Mhm.
You got a website?
Yeah. So my actual company website is omnigrowthstrategy.com. If you're watching and you're interested in learning more about business credit and how it works and stuff like that, you can go to omnigrowthstrategy.com/podcast, and you'll be able to go ahead and opt in. And I got a free training that I have where you can learn more about business credit.
Cool. All right. So I asked two questions of everyone who's on Man versus Brand. Uh, the first is, so first I'm gonna shout out to Wolf of Wall Street. Um,
Yes.
so on any streaming platform, book or podcast, what's something that you recently watched or consumed that you really enjoyed?
Are we just talking about entertainment purposes or educational purposes?
Either it's what you're gonna give some referrals out to the folks that are listening. So it can
Okay.
be educational, it can be recreational, whatever you want.
Hmm. That's tough. I definitely would encourage anybody that's into books and you have a business or looking to start a business, because like we said, it starts with sales. The Way of the Wolf. It's by uh his name is losing me now, but uh Jordan Belfort. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, right. I was gonna call him Leonardo. I'm looking at the picture in the camera, but yeah. So Jordan Belfort, Way of the Wolf, phenomenal book. I wish showed off. It was like over here. I don't feel like grabbing it, but
yeah,
Jordan Belfort, Way of the Wolf. That's a fantastic book to read, to like start to educate you on sales and just the mentality. It's a psychology thing, really. When it comes down to it, psychology is heavily into the process of getting somebody to say yes to your product or service. So I definitely
all
will
right.
recommend somebody do that.
You're low key cheating the process. So now give me a movie and or TV series that you have recently watched that you thoroughly enjoyed. Right?
All right, man. All right, man. Since I went for a little too deep with that one. I go some entertainment recreational.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Uh,
we see it behind you. We're gonna know that that book is gonna be what you were gonna mention, or is gonna be the movie. We already knew that that was gonna happen. So now you're gonna give us something else. All right, now give us a
all right,
recommendation.
all right, all right. What's the name of that show? I just finished the second season. It's on Netflix. Um, what is the name of
Describe it.
that show?
Describe it.
Huh?
Describe it. We'll figure it out.
I'm trying to think of the actor first, and then it'll come to me. Kim Fields is in it
Kim Fields
with
is.
with
Is it a
the
comedy?
Upshaws. The Upshaws.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
That is a
You're,
great show. I thought it was gonna be really stupid when it came out, but I watched like the first 2 episodes and I was hooked. So yeah, that's a good show.
so um I have a funny uh Kim Field story.
Oh,
The up
okay.
right. So Upshaw's, check it out on
Hmm.
Netflix. Funny Kim Field story. So um a friend of mine lived. So I live in Harlem, now
Okay.
by Central Park. A friend of mine lived in Harlem some years ago. They moved, and I ended up in Kim Field's house, renting the house that she had with all of her stuff in the basement. And I never really
Oh
went in
wow.
the basement to look at like the
Hmm.
stuff. But she would come by and like we talk and like have wine, and like she was friends with my friend. But it was funny at like there's just certain things in the house that it would be like it was a piano, like a grand
Hmm.
piano. And it's like they're like, yeah, Kim used to come play that piano. I'm like, Kim Phil played a piano? Like I didn't even know that, right? And so
That's
randomly
crazy.
I
Yeah.
was living, and that's like one of those kind of New York weird stories where like,
Yeah.
yeah, like we had the first, second floor, and the backyard, and the entire basement was just filled with her stuff. And I'm almost 90% sure that like for 7, 8 years, a whole basement full of stuff never got touched. Like she bought houses, moved to Atlanta, did Housewives, did TV
Mhm.
shows, and I think it might still be there. I don't even know, but like
That's
that's a
crazy.
story. I rented.
That's crazy that you got
That's
a
yeah, a
story
whole
about
bunch of
Kim
them.
Fields
Yeah.
and I randomly bring up the Upshaws. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, second question. Uh, on any streaming platform, podcast or book, what's something that you enjoy that people around you may not necessarily think you do? And it doesn't have to be a guilty pleasure. It could just be like something that people don't think like you're really interested in, but you know this show, this podcast, this movie, this book, really, really, really is something that you really like.
Okay. And either entertainment or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. I am a big Marvel guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big comic. I'm not really a fan. Like I'm not like I don't like just have a whole bunch of comic books. Don't get me wrong, not like that deep, but
Yeah.
like I just love the movies. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just a big superhero. The Batman's, the obviously all the Marvel stuff that they got going on now with the Avengers, and
Yeah.
I'm super into those movies.
You there for it? You there for it? All right, cool.
Yeah.
Um, so who do you think is there a movie that you're excited about? They just announced, I think, that the director for Blade they let go because they weren't happy with where his
Yeah.
direction or what he's going.
Mhm.
Is there one movie that or Marvel series that you hear is
Mhm.
coming out that you're really excited for?
Yeah, it's I probably want to say like it's three, right?
Okay.
So obviously Black Panther Wakanda Forever, like
Sure.
that's shutting it down when that come out in November for
Okay.
sure. Like that's shutting it down. I think I don't know if you've seen the trailer, but the trailer was just so deep and they really didn't even say anything. Like you just felt the heaviness in the
Yeah.
trailer. You know what I'm
It was
saying?
the
So
energy. The trailer had energy. It had mood. It was a mood.
man,
It was a
like that
moody
was like one
trailer.
of
The
the
trailer was
heaviest
moody.
trailers I ever seen where they didn't talk about the main thing at point. Like it
Exactly.
was just supremely heavy.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, super excited for that to come out. That's like, a top of the list. But going on from there, that I seen they just advertised with Samuel L. Jackson, his character Nick Fury. He got a show coming out. I forgot what the name of the show was, but it
Secret
looked
Invasion.
what was that?
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasions. Yeah, that show looks like it's gonna be crazy. It looks like it's like real serious. It looks like they kind of getting back to like that Marvel that I like to see because they kind of been getting a little fizzy here. You know what I'm saying with all this little goofy stuff they're coming out with. But
Yeah.
I like how they do the jokes, but they sometimes they take a little
It,
too far.
it's less like Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, and more of like that first half of the first run of Marvel, where
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
where
man.
like Iron Man first came out, Thor first came
Yeah,
out,
Captain
Captain
America.
America, like the Civil
Yeah.
War type stuff. It's a little closer to that, a little further away from like the Guardians of the
Yeah,
Galaxy.
and I feel like and I love Thor. He's one of my favorite characters, and I did have to go see God or Love and Thunder. Sorry, I did
Yeah,
have to go see that because a lot of people I know they was like, man, it sucks. They joking too much, but it actually was a lot better than I thought it was gonna be.
I
So it
liked
was.
it. I liked it.
Because a lot of people said like, "Oh, they joking too much. It's too many jokes. They throw a goofball, like all that stuff." And I was like, "Okay." So I wasn't gonna watch, but then I ended up going to watch it, and it was actually, like I said, better than I thought it was.
I'm gonna tell you a funny story. So I went and watched it with a friend who doesn't get into Marvel comics, anything like that. Um,
Hmm.
and I was like, all right, like let's like it's just kind of like a random weekend. I was like, oh, let's go see Thor: Love and Thunder. At that
Hmm.
point, I hadn't really seen much about it. I think I just saw Gore the God Butcher, that part. I might have
Hmm.
saw maybe the goats something, but I
Yeah,
didn't really.
they
I
didn't
wasn't.
have enough of him in there too,
Yeah, like
which
I didn't really know kind of what the story, and I knew that Natalie Portman was going to be in it, right? So I
right,
knew that
right,
that thing was going to happen. And then we watched it, and I came out and I started being like the critical geek person. I was like, man,
right.
they got so much of it wrong, and like the tone was
Hmm.
off. And it's funny
Hmm.
because all of a sudden everyone around me also started saying it, right? Like
Hmm.
because sometimes people actually do have critiques of stuff. Sometimes
Hmm.
people just critique based on what other people have said about it, right? So it
True.
was funny because he was like, "Do you believe any of that?" And I was like, "No, I don't believe any of that. I just wanted to see if other people, when they heard someone say that type of
Right,
stuff, if they would start agreeing, or they'd be like, 'Nah, that's not true,' whatever." But all of a sudden,
right, right.
everybody around me was kind of like, "You're so right. The goats were stupid." The thing, and it's like, but the whole a guy throws thunderbolts in a ponytail that lost his eye the last time, but
Hmm.
somehow it's back. And the goats is what killed it for you. Like the you can't take the goats, but everything
Yeah,
else is
and
fine. Like,
I feel like they I forgot the name of the director. I think it's
was
Wakiti
it
or
key
Takiti or
to
whatever.
eat something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like how he direct. Like, Thor is not, and Chris Hemsworth is like phenomenal as Thor. Like, I love him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I just feel like they need to get back to like the true origin of Thor. You know what I'm saying? Like right now he's like an airhead. And like they were teetering towards that, and it's like it was a cool balance of him cracking a couple jokes. I think the best version of Thor I liked was probably like Endgame, Civil War.
Yeah.
Like
Civil
to me,
War
that
was
was
probably the best Thor. I think that people forget how bad the first two Thor, those first two Thor movies, like
man.
him was
So they, look, I
boring. It
didn't
was
think that was that bad.
boring. It
I
was
didn't think
boring.
that was that bad
It
personally,
was
man.
boring. But you know
Personally,
what?
I didn't.
But it's also because to his credit, um, Tom Hiddleston was so great as Loki. Like
He
you
was, and
needed
is.
like it could you know you have like the funny guy and then the straight guy, the one who's like
Yeah.
who's taking all the jokes and the one delivering the jokes. Once
Hmm.
Tom Hiddleston was no longer with Thor, he was going to be boring because you needed Tom Hiddleston to do all the funny stuff. And
And he
without
had the
him
best
trying to
series
do
coming
the
away.
funny stuff, those first two Thors, man, those I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
People
I
are
like
looking
them
at so
personally.
great, man.
I like them, but I get why people. I think when I did go back and watch them, I think I started to see that they wasn't that good. But that's kind of just like the second Avengers, like Age of Ultron. Everybody harps bad on that movie, but to me, I think it was one of the better Avengers. Yeah, hey, we could people argue with me, but I say Age of Ultron was better than the first one, personally.
Well, listen, James Spader's voice acting was crazy, right? Like he kills it. Blacklist, James Spader is crazy.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting though is that everyone, so many people didn't like um the Scarlet Witch or that version. That was before she became the
Oh,
Scarlet
she
Witch.
dope.
So
Yeah.
Wanda Maxwell, right? No one really liked her. They didn't really understand kind of what they were going to do with her. And now
Hmm.
it's like you kind of almost need her in a movie as a
Oh
pop up.
yeah.
So
She
your movie's
gotta
gonna
hold it. Like she is like has elevated up to like the upper echelon of characters for
it's
sure now
crazy
that
like what that looked like in age what she looked like in Age of Ultron and what the
Yeah.
possibilities for her character looked like in Age of
Yeah,
Ultron.
and I think
And
she
that's
was
how
solid in that movie too, you know? I don't know why people hate on Edge of Ultron. It was just like it was a whole bunch of action. It was like, yeah, I don't know why people hate on that movie. I really don't. I don't see it.
And listen, I'm gonna say this last thing before you hit your third movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Anything that I said about the first two Thors is because so much of Marvel is better. Please don't see me no hate if you love the first two Thors, because I promise you, like it's not gonna be that deep. So just
No,
know,
I think you on to
it's a
something. You on
ranking
to something.
system. Like it's a ranking system. I'm just
You on to
ranking
something.
them based on other stuff because the internet will chew you about stuff
They
like
sure
this. I just
will.
want to throw it out there. Throw it out
Them
there.
people don't
All
play
right.
about the Avengers, man,
Exactly.
and
What's the
Marvel.
third one? So we got Wakanda Forever.
Mhm.
We have
I think it's Secret Wars, isn't it called?
yeah, Invasion, yeah, Secret Invasion Wars,
Invasion.
and then what's
Yeah.
the third?
Mhm. The third one is man, I think he is about to shut it down. Jonathan Majors playing King the Conqueror. Like I think he about to do damage. I really do. So I'm excited for I forgot what his movie's gonna be called that's coming. I know they say he's gonna be in Ant-Man the Quantum Realm. I know they say he's gonna make an appearance in that, but yeah, I'm excited for him, man, because one, he's just a good actor, but I think he's gonna kill it as Kanan. I think he might do some Thanos numbers, honestly.
Yeah, like I think too. What's gonna also I think that he's gonna be able to kill it in Ant-Man in his own movie, which might be Secret Wars. It might be in Secret Invasion, then
Yeah,
Secret
they
War.
announced it. It's gonna be an Avengers movie, but
Yeah, it could be
they
Avenger.
announced
I think it's
it, but
Avenger Secret War, and then there's like
yeah, something like that.
Invasion.
Yeah.
But I think also like he's good for Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Because they just announced that they found the guy who's gonna head Fantastic Four. So I think
Hmm.
he might be able to kill it for his Fantastic Four cameos. I think that
Hmm.
Jonathan Majors is gonna do really really well, and specifically
Hmm.
because I think that um what was that movie something
You talking about
Croft
Loki
country.
show? Or
What's
what?
the
Oh, that weird show or movie he
no,
was
yeah,
in,
sci-fi show? Yeah, yeah.
bro.
Uh,
I didn't even watch it, but I know what
but
you're talking
everyone, that's where he really kind of got a lot of his Lovecraft Country. Jesus, it took me a
about.
while.
Lovecraft Country. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like that's where he got a lot of this fandom from, and then a
Yeah.
lot of
Honestly, he killed
kind
it
of
in that Netflix movie, that Western, like that black movie. I
yeah,
forgot the name
with
of it. It
Idris
was
Elba and
yeah, The Harder They Fall. The Harder They
yeah,
Fall.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The movie
All right,
was
cool.
that the
Well,
movie's
listen,
solid.
guys. If you like any of these recommendations, definitely check them out. These are all future recommendations. If you want to check out anything related to Jordan Belfort, now we know who to go to. LaJuan Hughes has everything Jordan Belfort down packed. If you want to know about the Upshaws with Kim Fields, definitely check that out. If you want to know what was in the basement of that home, I'm not revealing anything because I don't ever talk. I don't reveal my sources or information. This is Man versus
Uh-oh.
Man. Check out what LaJuan Hughes is doing over on give me to me one more time. Omni
Omni
channel.
Growth Strategy.
All right, Omni Growth
YouTube,
Strategy.
right?
Check out what he's doing
Yeah.
over there.
Mhm.
I'll have all the information in the show notes for you guys to be able to reach out to him. You'll check out the marketing material. Make sure to add him on IG. Right now, take an opportunity and check out the podcast. The podcast is called
Man versus Brand. You talking about your
No, not
podcast,
my
right?
podcast, your podcast. You have a podcast
Oh,
too. You have Omni Growth Strategies podcast. You don't have one on mine.
you was testing me. I thought you
No,
was
mine's
testing
up
me.
here on the right side. What's your podcast called?
Oh, well, see, look, when people say podcast, it throws me off because it's a YouTube channel, but I know a lot of now people use YouTube to podcast.
Oh, the only reason I asked is because you said check out Omni Growth Strategies /podcast. And so I thought that you had a separate
Oh, no, that it's separate for people that
for
find me
people
from that
that want
podcast.
the thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
I
just
don't
a
see why
tracking
you don't
page.
rip the audio out of your YouTube and then just separately upload the audio to Spotify. And
People have said that. It's just I got so much stuff on my plate. It's just like sometimes the cup runneth over. So it's a lot of stuff that I could do. And so right now I'm in the habit of I'm repurposing a lot of content because I've been doing a lot of podcasts recently. So
yeah,
I'm kind of like repurposing that content in in addition to my normal videos that I upload.
Well, listen, you'll get the audio link for this one too, so you can drop that audio link if you choose to. There's
Yeah.
also the video. Thank you, LaJuan,
Yep.
for being on the show. Thank you guys for continuing to support. Love you all. Catch you at the next conversation.